The windswept coastline of northwest Scotland may seem empty at first. Sandstone cliffs gently slope into the sea, covered in seaweed and lichens. There are no animals around. However, if you look closely at the rocks and remove the seaweed, you'll find something amazing, a tiny ecosystem preserved in the rocks. These are fossils of microscopic life, once living together in harmony. These tiny organisms were prokaryotic bacteria and eukaryotic algae, coexisting in a small community. Some fossils even show collections of cells that might have been simple animals. The most surprising part is that these fossils are nearly 1 billion years old. This challenges what we know about the evolution of animals and the timeline of Earth's history. The Phanerozoic Eon, which we live in today, started around 539 million years ago, and marks the appearance of animals in the Cambrian explosion. So why are there animal-like fossils in rocks that are almost twice that age? This discovery might change how we think about the evolution of animals. In 1859, Charles Darwin introduced the theory of evolution, suggesting that life changes gradually over time. While this explained the diversity of life and some fossil records, the early fossil record didn't fit this idea. Animals appeared suddenly in the Cambrian period, leaving scientists puzzled about their origins. Darwin and paleontologists struggled with the lack of animal fossils before the Cambrian. But in 1946, a prospector named Reginald Sprigg found jellyfish-like fossils in Australia, and in the 1950s, schoolchildren discovered leaf-like fossils in England. These were the first signs of the Ediacaran biota, a group of multicellular organisms older than the Cambrian explosion. The oldest Ediacaran fossils date back to 574 million years ago, but they don't seem to be direct ancestors of modern animals. They don't share key features that define today's animals. Still, they expanded the fossil record of multicellular life before the Cambrian. Before these discoveries, scientists in Scotland had found microscopic fossils in the Torridon Formation. These fossils were simple, single-celled organisms around 1 billion years old. But they didn't offer much insight into animal origins and were mostly ignored. In the 1990s, scientists realized that certain minerals could preserve delicate fossil details. This led them to study the Scottish rocks again in the early 2000s. This time, they found 3D cellular structures, including clusters of up to 20 cells, indicating a more complex ecosystem. Some of these cells had double-layered walls, suggesting they were eukaryotes, organisms with a nucleus, like algae. These fossils pointed to a diverse microbial community living in freshwater environments, such as ponds or lakes, 1 billion years ago. Among these fossils was one that stood out, Bicellum brazeri. This microfossil had features that suggested it might be one of the earliest ancestors of animals. Bicellum was multicellular and had no rigid cell walls, much like animal cells today. This discovery supports the idea that life began experimenting with multicellularity much earlier than we thought. Researchers believe these early multicellular organisms, called holozoans, eventually evolved into animals. These simple creatures may have lived as single cells at first, then transitioned to a multicellular life. Over millions of years, they adapted and evolved, eventually leading to the explosion of animal life in the Cambrian period.